little bit different today. We have two pretty significant items we want to talk about. One is what we're going to continue to do to try to make the vaccine more available to every single Detroiter. And then at 3 o'clock, the daughter of former Sheriff Benny Napoleon will be here to join Chief Craig and Council President Brenda Jones and me for an announcement, I think, to recognize Chief Napoleon's contribution to the city of Detroit. So we'll go through the COVID, we'll answer questions, and we may take a little bit of a break depending on the timing. Then at 3 o'clock, we'll come back in with the Napoleon family. I'm going to continue to give you numbers, and some of the numbers are good and some of the numbers are bad. And as always in the city, we're going to face reality as it is and deal with the truth. There is some good news. This is a chart showing new cases, which come in every day. And there was a point at which we had 600, 700 new cases a day. Lately, we've been dropping down in the 300s, and today into the 200s. So the number of new cases over the last couple of weeks has been dropping. This is true across the state, as the governor has pointed out, whether it's a function of social distancing. Certainly, people who have gotten their second vaccines are kicking in. And so if you just look at that, it looks like we're doing pretty well. But there's a downside. The cases we do have are a lot more serious than what we've seen before. We've got fewer people sicker, but the ones who are sicker are a lot sicker. In fact, a lot sicker than we've seen in quite a while. In the month of April, we have already lost 89 of our neighbors, numbers we have not seen since a year ago. And I want to show you something we didn't see a year ago. The age spread of the people who are dying from COVID. And so this is April so far. We have lost people in their 70s and 80s, 37, more than a person a day. People in their 50s and 60s, 33, more than a Detroiter a day has died of COVID in their 50s and 60s. These are people who have had the ability to get the vaccine for months, and something we did not see last year. People as young as 24, but people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. We've had 19 Detroiters who were young and in most cases healthy to start with, who died. There is something about this British variant that is hitting the lungs of people. When it hits really hard. For every story you hear about, I just got the sniffles, we're hearing more and more stories about, I never believed it could be so bad, I could barely breathe. And I've had 3 people close to me in the last 6 weeks end up with terribly serious cases because they were lulled into these stories of, oh, it's just the flu, and we'll tell anybody who listens now, get your vaccine. Even with the number of new cases down, we've got 415 patients still in the hospital today. That's a really high number, 4 times higher than it was in January. And here's the scariest number of all. Of the 415 that are in the hospital today, 119 are breathing on a vent. Just think about that. A quarter of all the people admitted need a ventilator to breathe to stay alive. And we know that the death rate is troublingly high for those who are put on the ventilators. This is what we are facing. And so in light of this, it's my responsibility to make the vaccines as available as we possibly can to anybody in the city. And that's been the commitment from day one. I think we've done it. Vaccines are more available to Detroiters than any place else. And we're going to just keep on doing more. And so probably the single best thing that we did was way back when you had to be in your 70s or your 60s to get a vaccine, back in January and February, we set up a Good Neighbor program and said, if you'll be a good neighbor and take a friend, we'll give you a shot too, even if you're younger. It was enormously popular, got lots of people to come. And here's the interesting thing we found, that you had folks who were hesitant, not that they said, I'll never take it, but they just weren't sure. When somebody they cared about, somebody in their life called and said, I'm going to take it. Let's go together. We saw the take rate go way up. Now, eventually, everybody was eligible for the vaccine, so nobody had to be a good neighbor. You could get the shot on your own. And when that happened, in particular, we saw the senior vaccines start to dip. We no longer had nearly as many people reaching out to our elderly and say, let me take you in to get your shot. And so as we talked about this, we said, what do we do? I am not a believer that the city of Detroit writes checks for people to get a vaccine. I just think it's the wrong thing to do. You're paying people to save their own lives. It looks like you might be pressuring. I don't want to do that. But we said, is there something else we can do to bring the Good Neighbor program back? We loved it. And so we looked at what we're doing. And today, if you need a ride, the city will offer you a ride for $2. But while you pay $2, here's what the city pays. The city's paying $35 a ride for you to get to the site. And if it takes longer than an hour, it's $50 that we're paying. And so I've got people who have taken 5 or 6 different people in to get vaccines just because they were good people. And they weren't getting paid anything. And so we said, instead of just having one vendor who can take people in to get their shots at $50 a trip, what if we did it for everybody? What if anybody who cared enough about somebody to help them make the appointment and took them in could get the same $50? Is there any reason we wouldn't do that? And that's what we're doing today. We are extending the Good Neighbor program to anybody that wants to do it. You can get $50. And so how does this work? Starting today, for appointments that are made for Monday or later, you can help somebody get a shot, and you will get paid $50 a trip for being that good neighbor, for helping them make the appointment and going in. So what do? First, you have to register yourself as a good neighbor. If you don't call and register yourself, you don't get paid. So just pick up the phone, call 313-230-0505, say, hey, I want to give you my information. I'm going to be a good neighbor. I'm going to call back with my mother. I'm going to call back with my neighbor. I'm going to call back with people in my senior center. I just want to get registered. But for us to issue you the $50 payment, you have to call up and get registered. You don't get registered, there's no payment. So that's the first thing. Dial and get yourself registered, even if you don't have anybody yet. Second, you can bring any Detroit resident for their first dose. If you're a good neighbor, you don't have to be from Detroit. You can be from anywhere. But we're paying you to bring Detroiters. And so every Detroiter that you schedule and come in for their first dose, you'll get paid for. So either you or your friend calls up and says, my name is so-and-so, I'm the good neighbor, and with me is Mrs. Jones who's getting the shot. You register, you schedule the first dose, now you're in. You need to let your friend know you're getting paid $50. It'd be kind of a rotten thing for you to get paid for taking your friend and not tell them. And by the way, while you're there, they're going to see you get the $50. So make sure you tell your friend about the payment. And then you have to bring them to the vaccine site. You can't just make a phone call. So you get to the vaccine site, and if you bring them to the vaccine site and you're registered, you will be handled, as soon as they get the shot, a $50 MasterCard gift card. It's a debit card. You can use it anywhere. It's a MasterCard debit card that's worth $50. Take it, spend it wherever you like. It's yours. You will be handed it on site as soon as the person with you gets their shot. Then, if you come back for the second shot, you get another $50 card. So just bring them back, and you'll get a second one, just as the company that we use that drives people to the centers. And so you'll end up with $100 if you accompany them to both trips. For most people, the first trip is the most anxiety-filled and probably most important, but we felt like if you brought them both times, you get paid both times. So any appointment, you can call today, just make the appointment starting Monday or later, and you can get registered to be a good neighbor and get paid. Now, I don't know any place else in the country that's doing this, so we made up a set of rules, and we're going to try this. We're in uncharted territory here. But you can go to our website, detroitmi.gov, and it will show you how it works, but I'm going to simplify it for you. We have 7 good neighbor rules. You're not going to be able to scam and just jump in a car as somebody's pulling in. You're going to have to follow the 7 good neighbor rules to get your $50 card. First, You're bringing a person who's a Detroit resident. Second, you have to register too. You're not registered, doesn't matter that you're in the car with them, you don't get the gift card. And so you can't stand outside the TCF Center, jump in the car with somebody, go in and say, hey, I accompanied them. No. You have to be registered at the time of the appointment. Third, you've got to go to the first shot in order to get paid for the second shot. You can't find out that your sister got her first shot, she's going in tomorrow for the second shot, and I'm going to show up for the second shot. It doesn't work like that. You've got to make the first shot. That's the time when people's anxiety is highest, the time they need your help. And if you do that, you can come back and get paid for the second shot. Fourth, this is only for appointments. It's not for the walk-ins. So you're going to have to make the appointment ahead of time. You can imagine folks standing outside the walk-in centers and walking into Northwest Activity Center accompanying people over and over. No, no. That's not how you get it. It's appointments only. One good neighbor per car. Maybe two of you go with you, but only one of you gets the card. However, the good neighbor can bring up to 3 patients in the car. If you bring 3 patients, you'll get 3 gift cards. You get paid for all 3. We aren't going to go above 3 because the last thing I need is a van or a bus that turns into a spreader event on their way to a vaccine, but up to 3 people. Now, if you want to make a second run, you could do that, but you could walk out with 3 gift cards if you have 3 patients with you. Finally, there's no limit to how many how many people you can bring. You want to make 3 runs a day? If there's somebody out there who's really entrepreneurial, somebody who's got that sense, if you live in a senior center, and nearly every one of our senior centers has got about a 50% vaccination rate. If you live in a senior center and you convince your neighbors to go and you keep coming back every day, we're going to keep giving you gift cards every day. I want those kinds of people to be motivated. The only thing is, the IRS says after 6 people, when it's $600, you're going to have to fill out a W-9 for tax withholding. So if you do have to be particularly entrepreneurial, I'm glad to see it. Just want you to know after the 6th person, we will have to start withholding for the IRS. Those are the 7 rules, and we are going to see what we can do, because what we have got in this city is 30% of folks who have been vaccinated and 70% who haven't. But I know from talking to people, there are about 20% of the people in the city are never going to take the vaccine. They've read stuff on the website and they believe it, and there's nothing you can say to them. You don't need to waste your breath. But I think there's probably about 50% of people in this city who say, I know I probably should get it. I'm nervous about it. I'm scared about it. If somebody really cared about me, if somebody reached out to me, maybe they're homebound, but took me, I would go. These are the folks that we have to reach. We are burying 100 of our neighbors in April. We don't want to bury another 100 of our neighbors in May. And so this is a time for you to reach out to people in your life, do the right thing, and be able to make a little bit of money at it. So, the rule, good neighbors only for appointments. Where can you make appointments? Lots of choices. TCF drive-through, you all know this, Monday through Friday 8 to 5. Northwest Activity Center, Monday through Friday 9 to 7. Straight Gate Church, this is an outdoor drive-through on Grand River. You can just drive in, you don't even come downtown. Monday through Friday 9 to 7, and our church Saturdays from 9 to 1. Every one of those has appointments. If you call the number 230-0505 and make appointments to any of those sites, you will be a good neighbor who can get the gift card when you show up. So lots of choices, every corner of this city, to make sure we can do this. And so you call today, register for Monday, register yourself, first dose appointments, and we're going to see if we can't prove to the country that the people of the city will watch out for their neighbors. The other thing is that we are going to honor the White House request, and starting tomorrow, we will be offering Detroiters the option of the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine. And so if that's what you want, you've done your research, we've got it available, you'll get a little notice that indicates there's an extremely rare blood clotting disorder. Appears to be about 1 in a million recipients, but you get it done in one shot. If Johnson & Johnson one shot is what you want, it is available tomorrow, starting tomorrow, at 2 locations. Northwest Activity Center, Monday and Friday, 9 to 7, and Straight Gate Church, which is a drive-through. You don't even have to leave your car, Monday through Friday, 9 to 7. So if you want Johnson & Johnson, you can call and get an appointment, or you can walk up, because both of these have no appointment walk-ups. So if you want to know I can get right in and out at 2 o'clock, you can book the appointment. Chances are if you just walk up, you are not going to have any trouble. So those who have been waiting for the one-shot vaccine, call right now or just walk in tomorrow, and you can get it starting tomorrow. So now Detroiters have a whole series of walk-in sites, which are posted on our website. You got a whole series of appointment sites from Moderna and Pfizer, and you have both walk-in and appointment sites for Johnson & Johnson. There is no place anywhere in the country that it is easier to get a vaccine than the city of Detroit. You can get in tomorrow with any option that you want. And so that catches you up on what we're doing. And Denise Fair is basically working day and night to continue to answer questions so folks get more and more comfortable. What we find is the more people learn, the more anxious they are to get vaccinated. And with that, I'll turn it over to our health director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my comments will be pretty brief today, but my goal is to encourage all of you to keep fighting this virus that thinks that it's winning, but it's not. And you can see from our numbers that positivity is decreasing pretty rapidly. Hospitalizations have also steadily declined, as well as our cases. So we are making progress. But it's so important that we continue moving forward. We can't get too comfortable, because if we do, more Detroiters are going to get COVID, and more Detroiters are going to die. So it's up to us. The health department has 2 major goals, especially in the middle of this pandemic, and that is number 1, education, and also access. So for education, we want to equip Detroiters. We want you to feel empowered and have enough knowledge to be informed to make a decision on whether you should take the vaccine, and I'm here to say, take it. Knowledge is key. If you have questions, you can give us a call Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. Call us, 313-876-4000. We have daily power hours. We have teletown halls and forums. So we want to educate you. And the second goal is access. As the mayor has already indicated, we are making it easy and accessible to get the vaccine. We have locations throughout the entire city, whether you want to walk in or drive through on after hours or on the weekend. We are here for you. And now also the good neighbor, in which we are going to reward people for helping us spread the message and help Detroiters get vaccinated. And so we do want to get back to our lives. So I do encourage you to continue following those safety precautions that we know, which is washing our hands, practicing social distancing, wearing our mask, and of course, get vaccinated. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
With that, we'll take any questions.
Good afternoon. Let's take your topic up first. What is your comment in terms of, here we are now, we've gone from long lines, high demand to diminished demand. We've talked with you over the course of the last couple of weeks that the supply is up here, the demand of the vaccines is down. Now you're paying people to transport people to get the vaccine. What's your comment to the community regarding where we are with that kind of a state of affairs? Is it becoming, I don't want to use the word desperate, but you're really putting on the urgency here?
You know, my responsibility is to make this city the easiest place in America to get a vaccine. I get up every day trying to figure out how to do that. It's individual choices on what you want to do. But as I said, I find everybody, there's people who just said, I want it that first day, and they lined up for hours. There are people who say, I'll never get it. But most people fall somewhere in the middle. They've got some hesitation, some fears, maybe they don't like needles, maybe they read something. And those folks, when they have support in their lives, tend to show up and get vaccinated. And when they don't have support in their lives, don't. And so what we're trying to do is really encourage the best of Detroiters. Support your friends and neighbors, make the appointment, come with them. And so I feel like we're doing a good job of making it available. And now, government can't do it alone. Nobody wants to listen to Dr. Fauci or me or Governor Whitmer tell them one more time, take the vaccine. But they will listen to their neighbors. They will listen to their families. They will listen to their friends. And so I'm trying to embrace the community and see if the community won't rally together, and we're going to give it a try.
Changing topics, there were more discussions today about the Charter Commission, some of the members speaking out. You've heard what they've had to say. Give me your initial reaction to what they said first off, and I can get specific.
I'm not sure what they had to say. So which subject are we on now?
Well, some of their talking points, they say there's not enough funding for letting people know about the proposed changes.
Yeah, so I recommended a $600,000 budget for the Charter Commission. Ultimately, the council adopted a $300,000 budget. Today, we're recommending another $150,000, and I expect that council will support it. And it will give the Charter Commission a total of $300,000 for the next few months, which I think is appropriate. Now, if you want to run a campaign, the government shouldn't be paying to run a campaign. You should raise that money privately. But enough money to make the charter available on the websites, in local libraries, on cable TV and the like, we absolutely should do that. I'll work with them to do that. And I think City Council, they may have already acted for all I know, but I suspect they're going to act today, and hopefully they'll get them some additional funds.
Yeah, they're saying that without that, it's voter suppression.
Yeah, again, we're going to try to get every voter to the polls as possible. So I'm going to be on the ballot in August. And so the last thing I want to suppress is the vote. I want everybody out. So I'm going to do everything I can to get voters. I'll be sending drivers and vans and door knocking and mail-ins. So I'm going to do everything I can to raise the vote in August.
You talked on Monday about how some of the items they have in this would plunge the city back into bankruptcy. They also talked today about reparations. Does that go in that same category, that it's
No.
just too much for the city to take on?
I think there are a lot of good ideas. I think the Reparations Commission has merit. There are 100 good ideas in there. The problem is nobody bothered to cost them out. So when you start saying free sidewalk sounds good, free broadband for everybody sounds good, free bus service for everybody sounds good, free summer jobs for everybody sounds good, they put all these good ideas in, and when you add it up, the finance department says it's a $2 billion deficit. And so you've got to have some level of responsibility to say, I'm not going to adopt something. I mean, you think about what the pensioners in this town went through having their pensions cut because the elected officials in this city didn't have the courage to say, we're not going to run deficits. And so I'm happy to work with the Charter Commission. I'm happy to sit down with them. There's a lot of good ideas in there, but they have to be responsible in following the law and getting us a financially solvent charter.
Has the train left the station on this? They've already put together a document that's in the hands of the governor, so can
Yeah.
it still be revised?
Oh, sure. I mean, up until the time the Charter Commission votes to send it to the clerk, it can be revised, and I'm prepared to sit down any day in a positive way. I think we're going to see what the Attorney General and the Governor have to say. If I understand anything about municipal law, there's going to be lots of problems. And then what do you do from there? I'm not sure, but I'm prepared to engage constructively. What I'm not going to do is sit down and be quiet while they adopt something that plunges the city back into bankruptcy. We've come too far.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, just a couple of other questions from reporters who are watching remotely. First, on the Good Neighbor Program, Annalise Frank and Sean Lay want to know how much, is there a certain amount budgeted for the program? Or, and secondarily,
We've got money from a state grant, as many good neighbors as we have we'll be glad to keep passing out the gift cards. We've got an unlimited number of gift cards.
Okay, that answered the second question as far as the source of the funding. And then back to the Charter Commission, Sarah Rahal from the Detroit News said that members of the commission said today that you refused to sit down and take part in the process of drafting.
Yeah,
Why do you respond to that?
Somebody should go back and look at the videos of those meetings, because that's just laughable. Those early meetings, when Lawrence Garcia, the city's attorney, went, members of the Charter Commission were verbally abusive to him, telling him they didn't want him there, they didn't want any presence from the mayor's office. It was open hostility. All you gotta do is watch this thing. So to come up with this revisionist history, hey, we wanted to work together, everybody knows where my office is. But whatever the problem, of course, was, and if they didn't want to talk to me, they could have talked to Tanya Stoudemire, who was doing the budget, who had a number of conversations with Charter Commission members about costs of individual proposals. But it wasn't until really the last several weeks, 2.5 years in, they started to do that. But in any event, we're prepared to sit down at any point and find something that's reasonable. But at the end of the day, you gotta have the integrity to say to the people of the city, we can pay for what's in here. You can't just spend $2 billion you don't have and say to voters, vote for it, it sounds great. We've lived that already once in the city.
Okay, that's our last question for this panel. We'll be back in a few
Okay.
minutes.
So John, why don't you introduce the group that's coming in?
All right, we will have Chief James Craig, Council President Brenda Jones, and also joining us will be Tiffany Jackson,
Okay.
Sheriff Benny Napoleon's daughter. Who will,
Is Sharon joining? Okay, and Sharon Heath, is Sharon going to join us?
okay, Sharon will join us too.
All
She
right.
was a walk-on.
Okay, well, Sharon's always a part of the family.